Coming up this week on Beyond the Vibe, we're joined by Kris Barras.
But with this album, I just, when I first started writing it, I was writing heavier stuff, and then I was going, oh no, it's too heavy, and I was like trying to force myself to write in a bracket. I was always playing in bands throughout the whole of my fight career anyway. They make every gig feel like a party. It's like a house party with all their friends. They make it like the gig feel like that. It's amazing. I mean, obviously we finished the tour at the Royal Albert Hall. I mean, that's like a dream place to play, and but they've got pictures up everywhere of like all the people that played there over the past, or done stuff there over the past 150 years. All these really old pictures where people were doing like, there was like a marathon race. They were running around the circle, and it was like a big race they held there. Like, I don't even know what year it was. There's so much like prestige. The people that have like shredded the boards there before you.
Welcome to Beyond the Vibe, the show that cuts deep into the world of music.
My name is Aaron Day, lead guitarist in UK band These Wicked Rivers, and I'm here with music videographer and photographer. It's Mr. Ryan Versa.
It is.
It is. What's been happening in the movie? What's been happening in the world of not just yourself, but the world of rock?
Well, we of course both saw a very interesting post from the band Scam.
Yes, we had Steve on the show.
Steve, yeah.
Steve.
It's an interesting one. It's one that a scenario I've never actually seen before happen. Of course, they released their new EP, Venus.
Venus, yeah.
Everybody was looking forward to that. People who've pre-ordered it or just bought it put it in the player, and it wasn't quite Venus, was it?
No, a banger on it.
Yeah.
It's basically like Bollywood sort of music, which is amazing. I mean, that's one of the first, probably the most realistic Spinal Tap stories. And Scam are not Spinal Tap in any way. Scam are awesome.
It's like a Spinal Tap scenario.
Yes, but I felt really sorry for them, because obviously the messages start coming through. I think they've had the drummer put a live video out on the page, and he's like, "I'm just getting the messages through." I think he had the banger playing in the background. This is what's on our EP. I mean, any story's a good story, isn't it? There's no such thing as bad exposure.
Yeah, I mean, the thing I said, it's like, well, you've now got this, like, looking on the bright side, you've now got this amazing story that you can tell for the rest of your career. That we released this
fucking great story.
We released this EP, and it actually had Bollywood music on it, essentially. So there was that.
We had a real life Spinal Tap moment on the tour where it's on Blackwater Conspiracy's tour vlog as well, which you can check out. I've been catching up with them because me and Richard are normally titting about on them, and there's this bit where Phil's like trying to walk around our stage, and he's got, I'm not going to do his Irish accent because that'd be very offensive. And he's like, "Where's the stage? I'm dead sure the stage is up here. The stage is definitely up here. All right, we'll see you later." And Phil's going, "Oh, can't find the stage."
Oh, that's fantastic.
It's ultimate Spinal Tap.
Yes.
I mean, Saxon, who apparently influenced Spinal Tap, I can remember I watched him at Download one year, and there was this trolley that was used to carry amps, like a piece of wood with wheels on the bottom, and Biff Byford, legendary frontman, decided what's going to make Saxon relevant, to this young Download audience. I know, I'll lie on it and then skate across the
fantastic.
stage. Which me and my dad were like, that is the most Biff thing in the world. So if you know any real life Spinal Tap stories, please let us know.
Yes, comment below, because we're interested to hear these. I mean, we might make a video, like a top 10 Spinal Tap moments.
Real life Spinal Tap
if
moments.
If we can find some. So I mean, I think Scam.
This would be close to what number one that would have been. That's beautiful.
Putting the bar high there.
In a non-Spinal Tap related material, obviously Blackstone Cherry have just done their UK tour. Sadly didn't get a chance to see them because obviously I was out touring as well.
Very popular tour.
Very popular. I think that's the thing with Blackstone, is that they are loved over here. I mean, they always describe this as their second home. I remember the first time they headlined the second stage at Download, they just were so blown away at being asked, because they just didn't think, it was about 4 or 5 years ago, but they didn't think they were at that point. And I think just because of the love and affection that the UK has for them, it shows that they deserve to be there. And they played the Royal Albert Hall, and it just looked, it's packed, man. Every night it just like, I remember that after the first gig, I think they played Bristol, Chris Robertson posted a picture of him with tears in his eyes, because it was just that emotional for him to be back gigging. I bet it must be so weird for an American band coming over to here and there being no regulations. I mean, you had your first gig, the other day, didn't you? We won't say what it was for because it's extra content.
Yeah, that's coming soon. But yeah, it was a strange experience because I mean I walked into the room and it was like it has never happened, this unspeakable scenario. You know, everybody was like just carrying on as normal.
Yeah.
I think in many ways, you know, I feel it was a great thing. It was like the ultimate escapism. You know, I could go to this gig, I had a great time. People like, sure, there was people wearing masks and stuff still, but largely people, you know, there wasn't any social distancing. There was all this kind of stuff, which is perfectly okay over here at the minute. Yeah, it was really cool, wasn't it? It was like a really positive vibe to the room in general.
Yeah, and I think in most shows, including our own, imagine the Blackstone ones, the vibe has just been great because people want to go back to live music. They want to support bands. They want to buy merch. They want to chat and sign stuff. And obviously, you have to be careful, particularly as a touring band, because you don't want to catch anything. Because obviously, then it absolutely, you know, balls up the tour. But at the same time, it's hard not to want to engage with people again and to chat to them and to feel that lovely support community that's around live music at the minute. So, so yeah, fair play to Blackstone. It looked like it was a blast. And
yes, it was. I mean, speaking of the Blackstone,
segue.
Yes, of course. As you'll know from the title of this video, we do have Kris Barras this week, don't we?
Who's just been out on the UK leg supporting them.
Yes.
And it looked like he had an absolute ball. And it comes across in the interview when we chat to Kris. It just seems like it was the perfect match for the two bands, and it seemed like he just had a great time. And it was really interesting to chat to him about it.
It was, and you can hear all about that now.
So we're here with Kris Barras of the Kris Barras Band. Thanks for joining us, brother.
Thanks for having me.
It's cool. Pleasure.
So one thing that we like to do on the show is we like to go back to the origins of a musician. So with that in mind, when was the first time you remember hearing music and thinking like, this is what I want to do? Was there a moment for you?
Yeah, I mean, well, I grew up around lots of good music, rock music, blues stuff. My dad was a guitar player, bass player, and a really good singer. So I always had like lots of classic rock stuff and bluesy stuff around the house. And he played in a band as well, and we always used to go to watch him like most weekends, or at least like every other weekend when we were kids, we'd go and watch his band. So I was always around that kind of thing, and I started playing guitar probably about 5 years old. So yeah, I was quite fortunate in that sense, that, you know, I had a musician dad and was kind of, you know, around this kind of music. I had access to that kind of music, you know. We used to go through his LP collection, and so I was quite fortunate, really. I think the time where I decided that I really wanted to be able to do it as a career was it was the first ever big gig I went to. I went to watch Thunder, and where I live in Torquay, we don't really get any big bands come down, but Thunder played a gig in Torquay, and I was probably like 9 or 10. I was like the only kid in the crowd, and absolutely loved it. And that was kind of the time I was like, that's what I want to do, you know.
Cool, man. And when did the singing come in? Because obviously it comes across like you was a guitarist, you know, learning guitar naturally. When did you realise that you had a voice as well?
Well, I still don't really consider myself having a voice. Just because I couldn't find a singer, you know. I was trying to set up bands and at school and stuff, and I had a few different bands and some heavier stuff, and but then when I was like 15, 16, I wanted to get into, you know, getting paid for gigs. So I did a lot of original, like heavier stuff. It was kind of like metal stuff, kind of like new metal stuff. We used to have like a rapper, shouter, and a singer. And yeah, during all the new metal stuff. And then I decided I wanted to do like a pub covers band. I just wanted to earn some money and play around the circuit, but I couldn't find like a singer around our age. And I just started trying to sing. I actually sang on a few demos, and then one of the lads was like, "Your voice sounds quite good. Why didn't you sing?" And I was like, no. And then I just kept practicing, and then I just became the singer, and it's kind of just been that way. Really.
Here we are now. Obviously, for those that don't know you, you had kind of a bit of a sabbatical, if you'd refer to it, that from music, and to focus on like a mixed martial arts and Mauy Thai career. Kind of, what was the reasons for kind of dropping the music down, and what were your reasons for them picking it back up? If you're right to kind of go over that.
Well, do you know what? It didn't. I don't think it ever really felt like that for me. Not necessarily. It was like, I was always playing in bands throughout the whole of my fight career anyway. I was always playing in pub bands, wedding bands. I just wasn't doing anything original.
Right.
So I'd still play like most weekends in like local pubs and, like I said, weddings, birthday parties, all the usual shit. But you know, I did that for years and years and years. Do you know what? Again, coming from, we live in a very different time now. I mean, I'm 36. So like when I was like 17, 18 and trying to make it, like, it was a very different music industry, you know, like where we live, there's no venue. Back then, there was no venues where you could play original music. There was like one little tiny pub, which would have like pretty heavy stuff. But other than that, there was just like nothing. So it was really hard to know, well, what can we do? You know, like the internet was, I mean, it existed obviously, but it's not in its form now. Like YouTube, I don't even think YouTube was out then. I think YouTube probably came around when I was maybe like 20 or something, but it took a while before it really like took off into like the beast it is now. And you just couldn't get your music out there. You'd have a little like MySpace page. I remember I did that for one band, probably like, I don't know, early 20s, but it was just really hard to find a way to like promote and to get out there, especially living where I live. You know, it's so out of the way of everything down here. And it's nice. It's by the beach, and when it's sunny, it's pretty cool. But it was really, really hard to get it off the ground. And if you didn't have like a ton of money behind you, or you didn't know even that, like, you know, back then you kind of told, well, you have to move to London if you want to like make it. Do you know what I mean? It was so like I did all that. I had a guy that actually invested in us a little bit, and he took us to the States. He was managing us, and we did a couple of tours in the States and recorded an album in Philadelphia. And then it just didn't go anywhere. The strategy wasn't right, and I wasn't good enough. The songs weren't good enough. And it fell flat. And then after that, I was probably like 19, probably about 19. I just kind of gave up. And I had a couple other things that I did. I did a heavier band in like my mid 20s. But again, it's just so hard to like get it off the ground. And the fighting stuff was going well that I just kind of stuck with that. So I'm waffling a bit here, but it's kind of, so like I was doing the fighting stuff, but it's like my heart was always in the music as well. But I was just getting more opportunities with the fighting stuff, and more things were happening. And, you know, I became involved with a gym, and then ended up being a partner of two gyms, part owner of two gyms. I had my own fight promotion, and there's everything kind of spawned. And then I was coaching loads of fighters. And I, you know, at one time in our gym, I think we had like 6 people in like the national rankings for Thai boxing. And, you know, we were doing really, really well. And that was kind of like what I was doing. And it was only when I decided that I wanted to stop fighting, mixture of reasons. It's fucking hard, you know, all the dieting and the dedication, that trying to run businesses and everything at the same time is pretty tough. Injuries. I just decided that I probably wasn't going to get any further than where I'd already got to, unless I did something crazy like move to the States or something like that. I wasn't really going to progress. So I decided to knock it on the head. Then I kind of had an outlet, and I started writing songs. Just out of nowhere, really. I just sat down one day. I had a little studio, and I used to teach a few people guitar on the side. And yeah, I started writing songs. And my whole aim with the band was I just wanted to do a few original gigs. I did so many years of pub band stuff, and I didn't find it satisfying. I just wanted to be able to play my own music to 100 people, and I'd just be happy with that. Do a couple of festivals, playing to 100 people. That's all I wanted. Then obviously it spiraled, and here I am today.
Well, that's it. I mean, the band's first EP, which I think was a demo EP, came out in 2015. And as you said, then you kind of wanted that originals kind of vibe. How did the band come together? And did you have like a particular sound in mind for what you wanted it to be? Like you said, you'd done heavier stuff and some new metal stuff a long time before, you know. And was there a moment when you really kind of felt like that was ingrained, and you were like, well, this is, like you say, this is starting to spiral into something else than you imagined it being?
I mean, I don't really know. Everything's kind of been quite natural and just happened. I've kind of just been taking it like one step at a time, and just seeing what happens, really. And I mean, I suppose each album's gradually got heavier, and also my later stuff, you know, it's no real trace of the blues whatsoever. It's just a straight rock album. But it's I kind of like felt like I was having to. Like, blues is a very specific genre. There's like specific things that need to be in the sound for it to be considered blues, and if they're not in the sound, then it's not blues. Do you know what I mean? Like certain chord progressions that you just couldn't do, certain chords that you can't play, you know, certain guitar techniques that you just can't play in a blues solo because it won't be considered blues. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, not that I've ever been like a straight blues guy anyway. But with this album, I just, you know, when I first started writing it, like I was writing heavier stuff, and then I was going, oh no, it's too heavy, and I was like trying to force myself to write in a bracket. And then COVID happened, and I just thought, you know what, I don't give a fuck. Like, I don't care anymore. Like, this is what I want to write, and this is what I'm gonna do. And the record label were like massively supportive of it, and that's what I did. And yeah, well, you know, I mean, actually, to be fair, I was expecting a bit more of not backlash, but a few more negative comments maybe when we released like our recent single Dead Horses. I thought there would be some people going, oh, where's the blues, where's the blues? But you know, I think maybe we've shaken off like the diehard blues fans over the years when they realise, oh, actually this guy isn't really a blues guy. And actually most of our fans I think are just music lovers, and if they like a song, then they like a song. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, well, we'll see. But it's just been a gradual thing for me, really. And you know, the lineup of the band's changed like several times, and I think that's influenced the sound as well. Like the guys I've got now, we're all like completely on the same page, which wasn't always the case before. You know, I'd have guys that were like great players, but they weren't, you know, the kind of music we'd be playing wouldn't be stuff that they would used to listen to. Whereas now, like, we're all on the same page. We all love lots of different styles of music, but we love like what we're doing. We love this style, like the heavier rock stuff. And it just feels better when we get in a room and we jam. That's what comes out. Do you know what I mean? And I hope people will be able to hear that when they hear the album when it comes out next year.
Awesome.
Speaking of that, the new single Dead Horses, which came out in early September. For fans that haven't heard the single, like obviously now we know that there's something coming around the corner. Can you tease us a little bit of this new album?
Yeah. Have you got like a release time? Obviously, you got the tour coming around March. Have you got a name for the album yet? You know, have you kind of ready to set that?
It's all stuff that is scheduled to be announced, so I can't really say it yet, but it will be announced soon. Yeah, so you know, we will have an album out in time for the tour. We've got quite a few singles coming out before that. We've got another single coming out at the end of this month, end of October, October 29th, a song called My Parade. We've been playing that since the summer when gigs have been coming back, and that song's been going down really, really well. Every gig we've been doing, people have been like singing it a lot, singing along or singing it back. The first time we played it at Steelhouse Festival, we finished the song and then the whole crowd, well, not the whole crowd, but several members of the crowd started singing it back. And I mean, that was just insane. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that one coming out. I know there's at least a little bit of anticipation for that one amongst the bands. And then, yeah, we've got a few more singles coming out before the album will. But I'm really excited about it. I know everyone says it when they've done a new album, but you know, I really do think it is the best thing I've done. Like I said, everything just slotted into place for this album, even with the whole COVID thing, you know, and the whole COVID experience, you know, for me and for a lot of people out there, you know, it's one of the worst periods of my life. You know, I experienced things that I've never experienced before, you know, depression and anxiety. I've never really had it at like a serious level. And last year I did, and you know, I've never had to go through things like that before. I've been quite fortunate, I suppose. But you know what, COVID actually, looking back, the whole thing is maybe kind of a blessing for my career, because it gave me more time to write songs, and I kind of had more things to write songs about because I was in this different place, like mentally, you know. I think maybe that's part of what shaped the sound of the album as well, you know, like songs about you know, mental health and things like that. It's generally not a happy theme. It's generally a bit darker and, you know, associated probably with heavier music a bit more. But yeah, I've waffled again. I can't remember what my original.
No, you're
new
right.
album.
It's an interesting insight, Chris, because I think a lot of people will be able to relate to it as well. Do you know what I mean? Like coming out of COVID, to be able to listen to that album, there might be a lot of themes that people have probably gone through themselves during that time. And I think the thing with COVID, we speak a lot about it, don't we, right, is that sometimes it's nice just to take breath. You know, when the world kind of stops still, like you come across as like a really busy dude, and maybe just to taking breath, you can kind of look at, you know, where the sound of the band and where it's going. And particularly with the Blackstone tour, it feels like the perfect marriage with that sound that you're at now. Because like the blues sound, where obviously you toured with kind of Joanne Shaw Taylor and Beth Hart and stuff, might not have married as well with Blackstone, but where the band's naturally progressed to, and yourself at this point feels like, again, the perfect marriage for the Blackstone tour. And like the new single Dead Horses just feels like it's a great way to lay the foundations for that next chapter of yourself and the band.
Yeah. I mean, I couldn't have said that about myself. That's exactly how I feel about it. I mean, we opened for Blackstone for 5 shows in 2019, and it went down well. But there was a lot of like, oh, they're a really good band, but it's not my cup of tea. You know, there's a lot of that, and we definitely won new fans, 100%, because I saw a big jump in our ticket sales, particularly in areas that we played with them. Like on our headline tour, all of a sudden these places that were maybe only 50% sold out were all of a sudden completely sold out.
Yeah, man.
But on this tour, the response like felt different. Like definitely, like no headline tour I've ever support tour I've ever had before. Like really. I think maybe the COVID thing as well. I think there was every gig there was an atmosphere like, I don't know. Everyone's had such a shit time, right? And everyone's missed live music. It's such an important part of music fans' lives. And to be back in a room, singing and and enjoying yourselves, it was quite special, really. It was a little bit emotional every night. We missed it. Everyone's missed it. And to have a couple of thousand people in a room every night, and I really felt the energy, and I definitely felt like it worked better for us this time than it did in 2019.
Good man.
Was there a particular highlight for you from that tour? Like any big moment?
I mean, obviously we finished the tour at the Royal Albert Hall. I mean, that's like it was a dream place to play, and it's weird, like walking into that place. I've never even been. I hadn't seen any bands there or anything like that. But it really is a special place. Like you can feel it, like when you're in there. And then backstage, I mean, the place is huge, and like the backstage area is absolutely like it just goes on forever. You get lost. But they've got pictures up everywhere of like all the people that've played there over the past or done stuff there over the past 150 years. They've got all these really old pictures where people were doing like there was like a marathon race. They were running around the circle, and it was like a big race they held there. And I don't even know what year it was, but it was I don't know, 80 years ago, wasn't it? But it's just like there's so much like prestige. The people that have like shredded the boards there before you. It's like, and even though it's not my gig, obviously it's only a support gig, but just being there and playing was just like amazing. But every night was great. Blackstone have such a great fan base and a really diverse fan base. Like lots of younger people that you just don't tend to see around like the typical new wave of classic rock like type gigs. They've got a whole different fan base. Do you know what I mean? And then they've got older rock fans there as well, but they've got like a real diverse range of all kinds of fans, and lots of like people that are into like metal stuff like follow them. Do you know what I mean? So they've got a lot of metal fans, and it's just cool. It was just, the whole thing was just like amazing. I just felt so lucky every night to be able to step on these amazing stages and play to these, so many people. Every room was packed. It was great.
I think, like you say about the emotion and the supportive element from the crowd, I think Blackstone is the perfect band for that. And that crossover, like you say, I mean, me and Rye both got into Blackstone when they first came around 2005, 2006, and we'd have been about not to make you feel old, we'd have been about, what, 11, 12?
Yeah, I was quite
And
young.
and we go with our dads, who are old rockers. So it's that natural crossover coming through, and I think they've just followed that. And me and the boys and Rivers have just been on tour, and we felt the same as you, man, that people are just desperate to be out and connecting with people again and experiencing live music. I think that put with Blackstone's just natural vibe. I imagine every night is just, such a good experience.
Yeah, I mean they make every gig feel like a party. Do you know what I mean? It's like it's like a house party with all their friends. They make the gig feel like that. It's amazing. And they're a great bunch of guys as well. Really cool to hang out with, and they felt exactly the same as us. They didn't think the tour was going to happen, especially like coming from the States, because things are so mad over there at the moment. Some states are fine, other states are completely locked down and chopping and changing all the time. I think they kind of thought it was going to be the same over here, and then obviously come over here and bar a few venues doing some COVID checks, it's pretty much a free for all. So it was they were, every day you could tell like how grateful they were and how much they enjoyed it.
Awesome, man.
Let's talk about sort of gear wise, from guitar perspective. You took out on the road. Ryan normally gets a bit bored.
No,
He's not as much of a nerd as me.
I can't dive into it like you can.
I love it. I love any excuse to check guitars. And what do you tend to use on the road? Like, what do you use for the tour? Have you got a particular amp or a particular pedals that you use to gain your sound? And obviously, guitar-wise, you use the Seth Backus, don't you? You've got a custom build. Is that your main go-to guitar?
Yeah, so I've got two of those. I've got my blue one, the Nautilus. That was the first one I had built. And then I got a baritone built. I got a silver sparkly one that I use for a few songs, which is a baritone. And Josiah, the other guitar player, who used to be my keyboard player, he's just had a baritone built by Seth as well. So we're both playing Seth Backus guitars. Amp-wise, we've got... so we both use Kemper profilers. We both use the Profiler Stage, which is the one that's just all in one pedal. We've got a really slick, simple, well, it's not actually simple, but we've got a slick setup. So we don't have any on-stage sounds whatsoever. I used to. But I used to use the Kemper powered rack, and then I'd power a cab and have a bit there. But now we're all on in-ear monitors. We have like a noiseless stage other than drums. So we run everything through our own in-ear monitor rack. We've got a big rack with tape versions. It's got a mixer desk and everything on there. We do all our own mixes on the phone. Josiah's obviously like a studio whiz, so he's done all the tweaks to make it sound amazing, and we can just ride faders every sound check or whatever to get it right, and that's it. So it's so simple. We literally just put our Kempers on the floor, same sound every night, goes out in our ears. It sounds amazing. When I first went onto in-ear monitors, I really struggled. I was using amps at the time. I really struggled with the guitar sound, because you're not used to hearing a guitar sound like direct your ears from like a SM57 whacked up against a cab. Do you know what I mean? It was horrible. But the Kemper sounds like, I've got like stereo reverbs and stereo delays like whizzing around my head in my ears. Like, it sounds phenomenal. Like,
I mean that's
crossroads I'm at, to be honest, Chris, is that I'm used to hearing my loud amp behind my arse. So the idea of hearing directly in my ears, I'd really struggle with, I think. But the Kemper, like I was just about to say before you said it, it's perfect for that, because it's meant for that. It's meant to give you that clarity and that reliability. And it means as well you haven't got to depend on the room and how it's been mic'd, how the engineer's doing it. And I imagine it's great being able to do it on your phone as well, because you can basically do it to your preference on the fly. And it's kind of based on how you're feeling as well. Because some nights I imagine you might want a bit more of this or a bit more of that, depending on how it feels. So
I generally don't change much. There's a few things that happen sometimes, depending on. So we use ambient mics as well. So we have two mics at the front of the stage that point out to the crowd, so I can hear crowd noise in, and then we get like ambient of the room. So like from all the noise going out from the PA, that horrible racket coming out of the PA speakers, we get it in our ears as well. So that helps a lot. If you don't have ambient mics, it can be a bit dry and a bit weird, but you also get used to it. So, I mean, yeah, sometimes when I play with the other band I'm in, Supersonic Blues Machine, because we're often just flying from one gig to another, and they're all at big festivals and festival changeovers, and I was taking my in-ears with me, but we didn't have our own monitor engineers, so we were relying on people, and just found that the sound was just terrible. And I think if you've got like a terrible in-ear sound, then you're much better off being on wedges. So a lot of time with that band, I just go on wedges. But do you know what? Like the difference, I thought I was running my ears really loud. And then I had a bit of a technical issue. I can't even remember what happened actually, but my in-ear monitors stopped. Oh no, cable in my in-ears broke on this tour. We were doing Rock City. Yeah. So I did the whole of the second song. And so I did pretty much the whole of that set with no monitors. I took my in-ear monitors out, and I was just having to listen to the PA at the front. But you know, my ears, I was in they were completely shot after, just from cymbals and everything. So yeah, I mean, I know you can use earplugs. I tried that for years, but it just doesn't. Then I kind of felt like I was playing a jazz gig. Do you know what I mean? It was like too quiet. So I've got the in-ears. I've kind of got like a perfect blend now. I feel like I run them pretty loud, but still not as loud as if I didn't have them in. And you get used to it. Like I say, you get used to it. When I had to do that gig at Rock City, you know, it was just like, obviously I didn't even have any monitors at all. But you know, it was weird.
In terms of your own sounds, kind of that go through the Kemper, do you have a mixture of sounds, or do you tend to just have a couple that you rely on, like a clean and a bit more of a heavier sound?
Yeah, I keep it pretty simple, really. So I have like a crunchy sound that I literally use twice in the set for like a verse here and there. I have like my main rhythm sound and my main lead sound, but then I have another bank for the baritone guitar as well.
Right. Okay. Cool.
So I have pretty much the same sound, but because the baritone doesn't quite cut through in the same way as my Blue Nautilus does, even though they've got exactly the same pickups. I think it's just the nature of the guitar and scale length or whatever. I don't know, but it doesn't quite. It's heavier, so it's got a bit more of like a bass response. So I've just done some EQ tweaks. So I changed to a different bank for the baritone guitar, but that's it. So I pretty much treat it like if I was just going through one guitar amp, and I actually do, like, all my sounds are actually one amp.
Right.
And it's an amp that we used quite a lot on the new album. Borrowed it from Moose in Sons of Liberty as a Cornford Richie Kotzen signature amp. And Josiah in the band produced their album, and he used it there, and he was like, this amp sounds amazing in the studio, I'll see if we can borrow it. So we borrowed it, and it sounds like amazing. So we actually profiled it in the studio. So we did it all there and then, and that's all I use. There's Cornford on different levels, and then I've got a fuzz sound where I use Cornford on a lower gain, but with a fuzz pedal that's from the Kemper, and an octave pedal that's from the Kemper. So I treat it like a very simple setup, really.
No, it's killer, man. So basically, what the Kemper does, right, is you like this because you can be.
It's reliable. I've heard that.
Well, it's very reliable, but it does this profile thing where it sucks the entire identity out of an amp. So it takes it basically takes its soul, man. It's fucking.
So it steals its power.
Yeah, nobody knows it's black magic, but nobody knows how it works. It's witchcraft, right? They take it,
and it's if you do it in the right circumstance, the right, so we were in Vader Studios, which is like a world-class recording studio. We're going for a desk that's 150 grand's worth of desk, all this stuff, the best mics. It was just a perfect scenario. And we did like an A/B test. It takes a little bit of time, so it'll capture it, and then you can do things to like tweak it and to like define it, and you can A/B them like really quickly, just with one button. So you'd be playing through like the actual amp, and then you press a button, then it's the profile. You're hearing it coming out the monitors, and you can just tweak it till they sound the same. So I did a blind test. So I like turned around, was playing, and then they were just switching them. They said, right, which one do you think is the Kemper and is the real amp? I got it wrong. And then we did, the guy that produced the album is called Dan Weller. He's produced lots of top bands. He's actually a guitar player in Sixth metal band, like real tech metal band. Guy's an absolute genius. And we did it on him too, and he got it wrong too. So we both thought the best sounding one was the Kemper, so we thought, well, that's the amp. well, that one sounds the best. That's the amp. It was the camper profile. So both got it wrong. So it's an amazing bit of kit. You know, it gets like, I've come across a lot of guitar players like, oh no, I tried one, don't like it. Well, if you try one that's on a shit profile, you know, then it'll sound crap. You know, and it depends on the circumstance. If you're playing down your local pub or whatever, and that's all you do, yeah, you probably don't need it. But the size stages that I get to play on now, you don't hear the cabs. Do you know what I mean? Like, you don't. Maybe someone on the front row might get a bit, but when you're playing the Royal Albert Hall, you're not hearing the cab sound. You're hearing what's coming out of the PA speakers. So the thing that's so good about the Kemper is you've always got a good, consistent sound that comes out of the PA speakers, and that's what's most important, because that's what people are hearing. You know, what you hear on stage with your cab behind you, when you're on big stages, it doesn't mean anything.
One of the things we like to ask musicians as well is sort of, obviously you've since we said the first demo EP in 2014, 2015, Ryan. He'll enjoy that. 10 you've come a long way, man. I mean, it's incredible to think the journey you said. You've reflected on yourself, you know, toured with the likes of, you know, Billy Gibbons with Supersonic Blues Machine, obviously just on the tour with Blackstone, Joanne Shaw Taylor along the way. Where do you personally see kind of yourself in the band in 10 years' time? You know, is there any particular targets or goals that you want to reach or you see kind of in the future?
Yeah, it's tricky. I don't really know how far it can go. I don't really know. I'm just happy doing my best, constantly trying to improve and just seeing where it goes. I never thought I'd get this far. I never thought I'd be doing the stuff I'm doing now. So, you know, I'm happy. I mean, I always want to like keep progressing and keep moving, but I also understand that there's levels, and I'm kind of reaching a point where it's a step up from where I am now. So my next tour, kind of, you know, it's a big step up, but above that, like, is a really big step up, you know. So whether we'll ever reach like those kind of heights, I'm not sure. Like I said, my next tour, you know, we're doing places like Rock City Main Room, Headline, and Electric Ballroom and Camden. You know, they're all places that are like 1,200, 1,400 cap kind of places. So it's a big step up from what we've done before. And tickets selling well, and I think it's gonna work out. But the next step after that, I don't know. Like, it just seems like unfathomable at the moment. But let's see what happens. I don't know.
Like you said, man, when you toured with Blackstone in 2019, was it? You know, and you kind of didn't feel like it was, you know, as good a response as you had on this tour. I bet you imagined kind of where you were, what you've just done, you know, in the past few weeks as unfathomable. So it's there. It's just about continuously pushing, which I think you do.
Yeah. You know, I'm just enjoying the ride. Happy to keep going with it and see what happens. You know, like I say, I'm very fortunate to get to do what I get to do and to do some of the stuff that I have done. You know, like you said, like playing with Billy Gibbons and stuff like that. You know, I've done 2 tours with him now, and you know, he's a friend of mine. It's crazy. So yeah, let's see what happens. I'm just going to keep trying to improve, keep enjoying myself, and see what happens.
Yeah, definitely, man. We'd love to come out and see you on that tour as well. I mean, Rock City's our local, so we'll try and pop down and see you, dude. I'm sure all them seeds you've sowed on this tour will come to flower when it comes to your own tour, which is I'm sure what your hopes were, you know. So yeah, no, it'll be cool, man.
Yeah.
Now we like to finish the show on kind of another hypothetical. If you could tour with one band from the past and one band from the present, who would they be?
I get asked this a lot. Not necessarily like the past, that's the new one, but like, who would I tour with? Past. That's good.
You've got the time machine. You can go anywhere.
Yeah, we can bring them back to life. We've got many skills.
I mean, I've always said, like, if I could play on stage with anyone, it'd be Hendrix, because I just think that'd just be fucking wild. It'd be a party. Tour with any band? I don't know. Maybe Hendrix.
Yeah.
I think that would be pretty fucking cool.
Cool.
Current bands? Do you know what? Like you said earlier, Aaron, like, I think Blackstone Cherry were like the perfect fit for us.
Yeah.
Like, you know, okay, I could maybe pick a band that play in stadiums or something. You could say like Guns N' Roses or something, but do you know what I mean? Like, Blackstone Cherry, for me, it's just like an ideal fit, and it's just like a perfect thing. So if I don't choose them, I'd say they're probably like the best for us, because they're such cool guys, and you know, I think the fan bases work. Yep. Who else could I pick? God, sorry.
It's all right. Cool. No pressure.
Probably thinking about it too much. You could just pull out any old name.
Matt is bad.
I'm taking it a bit too seriously, I think. Let's say Alter Bridge. That would be cool.
That's a lot of choices for quite a lot of people. I see Alter Bridge as kind of the next kind of iconic band. You know, they're on that level of bands that have gone through. You know, as the older bands, have dropped down. I think I see Miles as being kind of rock icon in himself. You know.
Yeah, definitely.
I think he smashed it. Cool. So we've got Kris Barras band opening, and then we've got Alter Bridge second, and then the Jimi Hendrix Experience. We've got a nice variety, man.
Some wild gig going on.
And we'll chuck Blackstone in there.
Yeah,
we'll chuck Blackstone in there. There'll be a rotation with them and Alter Bridge.
Yeah, well, no one could follow Jimmy because he would have fucking set everything on fire and smashed it up.
He fucks it up. Especially now. I mean, you wouldn't get away with that now. Your fire alarms would be going off. People in high vises would be shepherding you out.
Yeah.
Suck all the rock and roll out.
Chris, thanks ever so much for your time, man.
Nice one. Thanks for having me.
The Kris Barras Band headline tour starts on the 8th of March of next year and runs throughout the month up and down the country. Make sure you check them out on that tour. If you don't follow them already, make sure you check them out on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, all the things. And their new single, Dead Horses, is out now. And keep an eye out for news of their upcoming album for next year. Chris, thanks ever so much, man.
Yeah.
Nice one. Cheers, guys. Thank you.
So yes, that was Kris Barras of the Kris Barras Band.
He was.
I enjoyed talking to Chris. He's a big bloke, isn't he? And normally we're big blokes, you know, obviously ex mixed martial artist. Yeah. You know, you'd think, bloody, I wouldn't want to mess with him, but he's a lovely bloke, isn't he? He's absolutely
he's a really cool guy. I mean, we say this most weeks, don't we? But
we've never slagged anyone after God. I'm just absolute pain in the heart. Bloody hell.
But I mean, I think it's another great example. I mean, he's very enthusiastic about music. I mean, when we got into the gear chat there,
I loved it, didn't he?
Pulled
him into my pit.
But it was interesting, you know. He's very kind of the impression I get is quite a techie kind of guy.
Yeah.
He likes that.
I get the feeling his expectations he sets of what he wants to deliver are quite high. And he wants to give fans the best possible show he can, and that's where.
So it doesn't matter where it goes.
Yeah.
You'll get the same experience. You're not going to get an inferior thing just because of the venue.
That's it. I thought it was really interesting how he said he played with Blackstone about 2 or 3 years ago in 2019, so it'll be 2 years ago now, maths. And the band was a different place, the Kris Barras Band, obviously still on the kind of on the coattails of the whole blues thing that kind of started the original sound of the band, and the Blackstone crowd didn't take to them as well as they did on this tour. And it just feels like, particularly with that new single Dead Horses, it's like they're starting to go for that heavier sort of sound, which obviously Blackstone are very much into, you know. And I think he described the Blackstone crowd very well, mixture of metalheads, young, old, blues rockers, you know, the classic rockers, you know. It's a full mixture, and that's why I think they're such a good band to support, specifically for someone like Chris, because he has quite a variety in his set list and his discography at that point.
Yes, it was interesting that he do the one from the past, one from the present.
Yeah.
You know, he cited, you know, that Blackstone Cherry Tour is basically the ideal tour.
He picked the band he'd just been out on tour with, which is a big compliment because he could pick anyone.
Well, this is it. You know, there's, you know, you could have said Foo Fighters.
Yeah.
You could have said that. But I do agree. I think particularly for his kind of music as well, it's the same crowd.
Yeah.
I think. You know, you want that kind of range of. You know, we spoke about. You know, you were how old when you went?
About
roughly?
11, 12.
Yeah. So you've got like
very mature for my age though.
I've got, looked exactly as you do now.
I did.
But yeah, you've got like you know, 11-year-old kids, 12-year-old kids going, but then you've got somebody in the 60s, and I think that's the same audience that Kris Barras is aiming for, and I think he's starting to attain that. But yeah, you know, really interesting character, particularly the martial arts thing for me. It was like, you know, adds another layer to his like overall story.
I'm looking forward to hopefully going out to see him on his headline tour, which begins on the 8th of March. So we'll try and rock out because he's going to Rock City, isn't he? So
yes, he is.
Might have to have a little wander down.
Yes, if you see us there, say hello. But yes, that is it for this week on Beyond the Vine. If you like what we're doing, you can subscribe, of course. And every Wednesday from 10 a.m, if you like us on Facebook, you'll find that we release a teaser trailer revealing what said guest is.
What is it, every Wednesday?
Yes,
Wow.
every Wednesday.
Every Wednesday.
Without fail. But if that isn't enough, we also release extra vibes occasionally, where we put out different things like top 10 best albums of the last decade, top 10 best new rock guitarists and best new singers, lots of different things like that. And we also have a brand new show around the corner.
Very excited about that.
Yes, that we are. I'm going to reveal it now.
You're shit. Hang on, right. Let me get prepared.
Yeah, prepare yourself.
Okay, I'm ready.
Right. We're also going to be putting out our new show, Beyond the Gear.
Yes.
Very inventive title that we came up with.
Hours that did.
Where we go out to various different artists and we go through all of their guitar gear and wonderful things like that.
We do indeed, which is obviously a very enjoyable experience for me as a guitar nerd and guitar gear aficionado. So we really enjoyed it. And if you click the bell, you'll make sure you'll never miss any of that exclusive content, including the new Beyond the Gear series that we'll be bringing to you very, very soon. So like us, follow us, and become part of the Beyond the Vibe family, and we'll see you
next week.